Hey guys, today I just want to talk about 5 big mastering mistakes that you need to make sure you avoid going forward. So I'm going to get started in a second, but make sure after this video you look in the description below, grab my free mix training. It comes with a free ebook and mix diagram, lots of helpful info in there. It'll help save you a lot of time, money, and frustration. So make sure you check that out. And real quick, this video isn't super flashy or anything like that, but I did pack a lot of good information in it that it will save you a lot of frustration. So I definitely encourage you to, watch the entire thing from start to finish. Okay, now let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is making cuts on the master channel like this. I'm going to get to the bass in a second, but first I want to address this. So I used to do something like this, and in general, you just don't want to blindly follow something that you hear online because of something you hear it and just go with it. For me, for a long time, I heard, oh, you can't hear anything above 20,000 hertz, so just cut it. Well, it's not necessary to do this. It doesn't really help anything. It probably only hurts anything, and it's not really going to help you achieve the loudness that you want. And so for this one, I'm just going to keep it real simple. It's not necessary, and I wouldn't do it, and I no longer do it. So delete this one. Second one is I used to have an EQ where I would basically anything below, I set up a mid-side EQ, and anything below this would turn into mono. That's also not necessary. If you mix your track well and you have your sub and mono and whatever, and your track's mixed well, then this isn't necessary either. And so I don't do this. Unless you're mixing or mastering for someone else and you need to use some mid-side EQ to kind of fix some stuff in there because you can't get into the mix yourself, then maybe that's when you want to use some mid-side EQ. But for mastering your own music, not necessary. So we'll get rid of that one. And this is the big one. There's this myth that's gone around, and I fell for it. And it wasn't until I sent one of my tracks to the mix engineer, awesome guy, Guido Werner. I think I'm saying his name correctly. Hopefully I'm not butchering it. But you can go check out his channel, Cats and Beats. He's a great YouTube channel. He's a great mix engineer. He does work with production music live, and he's an awesome guy, so check him out. But I sent him a track, and he had a video on this as well, where he's like, has been hearing this, like, everyone needs to, this stuff come up, or cutting below 30 hertz, and how it's just kind of bullshit. And the reason why, and I'm going to show you the example that he used, is, well, first of all, it's not necessary, but also, if a festival or something that they're going to have like an in-house engineer. And so if there's any issues with bass, they're going to be able to fix it right then and there anyway. They say you can't hear below 20 hertz or whatever, but if you have a subwoofer, you can definitely hear pretty far down there. And at a festival type situation, you can definitely feel the bass. But then I think the main reason it's just not necessary to do, but then, there's also something that's called post-noise ringing, and I'm going to show you that right here. So if you I've got a kick drum here, and I'll actually unfreeze this real quick to show you. And so this is just a kick drum, and if you go put a steep cut on it on the bass, and this is a steep cut obviously, but then even with a less steep of a cut, it'll still do this. Watch what happens if you freeze this like that. And now look at all this. So now if you copy this down, look what this adds to this kick drum. All that. That's a ringing sound that now has been added to this kick because we cut the bass like that. I don't know the science behind it. I don't know why it's doing that, but I know that that's not good. And so you can imagine that if you do that now to your master channel, your entire track, that could be potentially adding this post-noise ring to your entire track and just causing issues. And so that's something that you should just look into and keep in mind. And then just in general, like what I've noticed is when I've, leave this off, it doesn't make any difference. It's not like getting rid of that. I have a sub. I mix my bass really well now. It's just not necessary to do. What Guido would recommend and what I'd recommend is if you really want to do that, master your track with the cut, master it with an out cut, listen to them both, and then do what you think is necessary based on actually listening to the track. Because basically, that could, when you cut the bass, it might add like maybe it adds something like a sound that you actually want and you want to keep it in. But the point is that before you do that, before you blindly make a decision like that, it's best to actually listen to what you're doing. And so for me, I just don't do it anymore. I think it's pointless and I'm just no reason to do it. So I'm not going to do it. Just want to share that with you guys. And then let's go ahead and just get to Mistake number 2, which is also has to do with EQing, and that is, when it comes to mastering, if you're mastering your own track, make sure you never start doing really drastic EQ to your master. So I've seen some YouTube channels of producers who, they start mastering their track and they start doing like these giant boosts or whatever. If you start to, if you're doing like 1 dB here and there on the master, that's like, you want to do really subtle stuff on the master. If you start doing crazy stuff like this to your master, then that's just a sign that you need to go back into your mix and then go ahead and fix the mix. And so if you're working on something, it sounds out of whack and you start EQing like this, maybe you found a problem by EQing. Well, don't just do something like that. Take that, go back into your mix and go fix the problem, and then go from there. And you just don't want to make these drastic EQs, especially because we're mastering our own music, okay? So if you're mastering someone else's music, if there was a big mistake like that, you found yourself EQing a big amount, then you would want to just go to that person and say, hey, there's a mix issue here. You should fix this part of your mix and then send it back to me, okay? And so that's mistake number 2. Okay, mistake number 3 is only mastering your track to -14 LUFS based on this whole Spotify LUFS thing. That's BS. There's basically this like idea going around that, Spotify, they're going to lower your track. They're going to normalize your track down to -14 LUFS. So that means you shouldn't master louder than that. Well, the reason that doesn't make sense is because, first of all, if you were to pull up a bunch of pro tracks, they're all going to be mastered a lot louder than that, probably around, on average, -8 to -6 LUFS, and then for bass music, even louder than that, like -4 or louder for bass music. Those guys are crazy. But you have to think about it like dynamic-wise. If you master your track to be that loud, all Spotify is doing is, let's just like hypothetically say you've limited your track and it's like this. Well, all Spotify is doing is they're going to take it, normalize it with every other track on there, but that doesn't mean they're going to actually do anything to the dynamic range of your track. So if you master an EDM track, your track to -14 LUFS, it's just going to sound weird compared to other tracks that are mastered much louder. It's not going to have as much impact, and it just doesn't make sense to do that. So make sure you're mastering your tracks to, negative, whatever the average is, and take a pro track in your genre, take several pro tracks if you want, and then analyze them. I like to use Metric AB. It's a really great plugin for doing that. Make sure you get it on sale. I don't have it. Do I have it down here? This one? You can literally just throw a bunch of tracks on here and look at each one, and you're going to see, on average, -8 to -6 LUFS. So just keep that in mind. Forget about the Spotify thing, and I encourage you to research this topic more so you don't let this throw you off. Okay, number 4, and that's I wouldn't use stereo widening effects on the master. And in general, I would use stereo widening plugins very sparingly. So you can make your track sound really wide and nice with just good use of panning and delay. If you're working with vocals, have multiple takes, pan them hard left, hard right, use ping pong delay, stuff like that. If I was going to use a stereo imager, I might use it on something that's like mono, like a Korg 1M piano, or like I might subtly use it on an instrument group. And then I would just go ahead and leave it off the master, because I think it might do more harm than good. I myself, back in the day when I was really struggling with this stuff, would throw everything on the master thinking I was going to get that pro sound by doing mastering stuff. I'd throw like ozone on there and do the little imager and just try to get it, but that is really just making your track worse. And so it's really, really all about the mix. And so keep that in mind. Number 5, and this is just like a good mindset to have, and it's really this phrase that I like to use a lot, and that is, you can make a good mix better with mastering, but you cannot fix a bad mix with mastering. And so, just like I said earlier, back in the day, I used to think that it was all about the mastering, and I would throw everything onto the master, trying to get it to sound like a pro track, and I could never do it. Well, finally I learned that it's really all about the mix. I'd rather have a really, really good mix that I throw a limiter on than a mix that's like 70% good that I have to get mastered by a pro master engineer to like make it sound amazing or whatever. So the mix is far more important. That's not to say that mastering isn't important. However, if you have a bad mix and you send it to a mastering engineer and you expect them to work magic and make your track sound like the pros, they're really not going to do that. If that's the case, it's better to send to a mix engineer. You can send to someone like me. I'll mix it and master it and give you that pro sound, and that's really the way to go. So that's number 5. Those are 5 mistakes to avoid on mastering, and I really hope that helps. Like I said, look in the description below for free stuff. Check out my mixing and mastering service. I also have a course and community and mentorship called Mix Immersions. Book a call with me if you're interested in that, and I look forward to talking to you and seeing you guys again next time. All right, see you later.